Hello people of the internet, this is Kaiju Noir here with my review for what was perhaps my most anticipated movie of the fall, Wreck-It Ralph. Wreck-It Ralph takes place in an arcade that has somehow miraculously survived to this day. Every night when the arcade closes, the video game characters get the chance to leave their cabinets and hang out with each other. The movie focuses on one video game character in particular, Wreck-It Ralph, a villain from the fictional video game Fix-It Felix Jr., which is a parody of the Donkey Kong arcade game. After 30 years of having the same job, Ralph wants to prove to the residents of his game that he too can be a hero. To do this, he starts traveling to different games, which causes major problems for the games and their inhabitants. So now Ralph and his friends must put things back in order at the same time he's trying to find his place in life. Like many people, my mind was blown away by the trailer when it first came out. Seeing so many licensed characters such as Bowser, Ryu, and Pac-Man together on screen was like something out of a dream, and it felt like watching history in the making. Also, without a doubt, this has to be the best movie representation of characters like Bowser and M. Bison. Although that's not really saying much considering what we had before.
Of course!
I would never have expected Disney to make a movie based around something current yet retro, and to their advantage, it worked. As for the story itself, it was well executed, but could have been better. One of the problems I had was that despite the original premise, the plot tended to rely on several movie tropes that I've seen in other family films, so some might see some plot points as cliché. The other one was that Ralph only traveled to the two fictional video games that were shown in the trailers. This was somewhat of a disappointment considering the premise and setting of the movie. The first game was Hero's Duty, a parody of sci-fi FPS games like Gears of War and Halo, with a control setup that reminded me of Aliens Extermination. The other game was Sugar Rush, a Mario Kart parody which is sadly where the majority of the movie takes place. Once Ralph enters the game, the cameos and references slow to a crawl to make room for candy puns and character development. It took a while for me to grow accustomed to the settings, though I'm not sure if everyone will enjoy this change of setting, especially when the Hero's Duty segment was very exhilarating. Despite the lack of games featured, these three games complement each other very well, as they portray both the mature and family-friendly aspects of video games, as well as their competitive and challenging nature. The characters, I felt, were all well developed, excellently voiced by their respective actors, and were a joy to see on screen. Seeing the growing bond between the large and misunderstood Ralph and the adorable yet bratty Vanellope von Schweetz was well handled and very touching, while the interaction between the charming and innocent Felix and the tough-as-nails Calhoun were just as great and memorable. Calhoun was probably my favorite character since Jane Lynch was basically playing Sue Sylvester from Glee, but with a gun. Of course, you can't watch this movie without comparing it to Who Framed Roger Rabbit and Toy Story, two movies that also had a multitude of licensed characters in their films. I felt that while Wreck-It Ralph was not quite as good as those films in the storytelling department, it was able to pay just as much respect to the video game culture as Toy Story and Roger Rabbit did for toys and classic animation. Also, like Toy Story and Roger Rabbit, Wreck-It Ralph also brings out that childhood innocence and wonder that came from the movie's subject matter. In fact, I would say that Wreck-It Ralph can be enjoyed by audiences of all ages, just as much as the other two films did. The video game business is constantly evolving, yet it and its dedicated fans haven't and will never forget its roots. Even I, a person who didn't do much gaming in the 90s, took the time to grow to love and appreciate the area in which the majority of these characters came from. When you come right down to it, I think that's the feel that this film was going for, that no matter how old or experienced you are, there's always room for one more player. I'm giving Wreck-It Ralph a 4 out of 5. I really love this movie, and would highly recommend this film to gamers and non-gamers alike, who are ready for a fun, action-packed, and heartfelt adventure. Now, before I go, I do have to mention the short film that came before Wreck-It Ralph, Paperman, the story of one man's pursuit to find the girl of his dreams in the big city of New York. The story is sweet, simple, and all around a pleasant experience that really gets you in a feel-good mood. Within minutes, Disney has once again found their way to get audiences emotionally invested in their characters, even when there is no spoken dialogue at all. But what really impressed me was the style of animation. When looking at these images, you would think that this is a traditional 2D cel-animated short. However, once you see the characters in motion, it's obvious that this is 3D computer-generated animation. This new technique looks fantastic, and I would hope to see it be used more in future projects, especially since I'm the kind of person who has loved the classic Disney style after growing up during the Disney Renaissance. So that's one excellent short and one awesome movie. Trust me when I say that if you're up for it, you're in for one hell of a good time. So until next time everybody, take care.